Mustache Tales.
Yeah!
I wanted to, so here's a tale to start, because I want your input on this. I'm a little befuddled by what happened to me yesterday. I'm down here in Atlanta, and I had a full stomach, and I ate some lunch. And I came back, and a friend had made me a prepared lunch with ribs and chicken and potatoes and corn on the cob. So I was driving home in Atlanta, and I was looking to, maybe give this meal away to someone who's hungry. And I'm driving down the street, right? And I put an orange soda in there and a water. And the woman I was driving with was this woman, Jacqueline. And she told me that you can't help everyone, but that God tells you who to help. You'll feel a connection with someone. So I thought that's a really beautiful concept. Let's put that to the test. So I'm driving around, and I see this woman on a park bench. I pull over. I get out of the car. And, I understand that I'm a tall, big guy, and I don't want to be threatening. So I kind of come up on the level, a little low. And I present the meal to her. I say, how are we doing today? And I start talking with her, and I look at her toenails. She's barefoot, and her toenails are long. They're so long, they've wrapped around her foot almost, like they've become curved. And she has an IV, like she just had an IV. She's got a little bandage on her arm. And I said, are you hungry? Would you like some food? And she immediately asked me, well, what is it? That was her opening question. My thought was beggars can't be choosers. But then she wasn't begging. I'm just trying to, give this woman who I presume needed the food.
Right. What appears to be a fucking boogaloo boy walks up to her and is like, eat this. And she's trepidatious. Continue.
She doesn't want any part of me. And she says, what? I said, well, I've got ribs. I've got corn on the cob. I then noticed she had no teeth, so that wasn't going to be a selling point for her. I said, I've got an orange soda. I've got water. I've got chicken, and I've got some vegetables. She said, no, thank you. I'm full. And she pulled up her shirt and showed me her stomach. She refused the food. I got back in the car. Jacqueline said, how did it go? God told you to reach that person. I said, no, I misread it. We got to find someone else. She goes, well, let's go to the Greyhound bus station, because there's usually a lot of people hanging out there. I go to the Greyhound bus station. I see a guy. He's sitting on the steps, and I have the same kind of conversation. My opening is about the same. And he was so thankful, and he was so grateful, and he was so nice. And he took the food, and then he said, can I have some money as well? And I said, sure. And I gave $5 to him, which I thought was a sizable interaction as I was helping this person out. $5, not a 1, but a 5. And he said, just a 5? He said, what else you got? So I gave him a 20, and I gave him the food and a 20, and I got back in the car, and Jacqueline goes, you found your person. How was that? And I go, I don't feel really great about myself right now.
I have a couple things to say about that. Hey, are you done there?
Sure.
Hey, did you get the 5 back when you gave him the 20?
No, it was 25 total.
Wow. I also have one other thing. We'll come back to this, but when I lived in Soho, I lived in this 3,000 square foot place, on Broome and West Broadway, just like the fucking heart of really well-to-do Manhattan. And I had a sauna in my place. This is a nice fucking joint. And I came out, and I'd smoked a joint that day, and I came out onto the street on a Sunday afternoon, and these 3 couples were walking by, and I think they were from the South. And one of the women looks at me, and she goes, "Oh, would you like a sandwich?" And I was like, I'm going to
actually, yeah.
I mean, what? You see where I live, motherfucker. Anyway, I was like, "Do you have $25 though? Because I could." No. Anyway.
First of all, did you offer Jacqueline the sandwich or the plate of food?
No. We had just come from a big catered lunch.
So you guys
That's
ate
why we
together.
were.
Okay, got it.
We had all eaten. We felt bountiful. We felt like we had so much food we were going to give it away.
And you did. I bet you slept like a baby last night, though.
Well, morally, I was a little conflicted because I did feel that it could have been helping someone when they're not asking for it is different than helping someone when they're asking for help.
Very true.
Is it?
Just like what Jay was saying, you're like almost assuming that someone needs your help.
Well, you're also, you don't know people. Like, right, exactly. You don't know, like, if a person is, like, mentally ill, how they're going to react, Like, can you imagine if, like, you, like, offered him your, like, plate of food and, like, he, like, punched you in the face?
Or if I'm like, here's a drug treatment facility for you around the corner, and he's like, I've been sober for 15 years. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I always do, though. I know this sounds lame. I always feel like much better about myself, like when I like give, overgive. Like I think it was, and it's not just for donating to when you see a homeless person or when someone's asking for money, but just in general, I think it was Amy Sedaris who said, "Make tipping and giving money away your one luxury." And I always think that's such a great quote. I also, though, you guys know I love classic cars as my other luxury, and that will never change. I don't own any, but I'm a fan of them, and I just read about them all the time, and I just love them. Those are my two luxuries: giving away money and classic cars.
When I made the film Club Dread, Bill Paxton, the late Bill Paxton, late great Bill Paxton, he and I went down to West Palm Beach to show Jimmy Buffett the movie because the character was based on Jimmy Buffett.
Nice.
And so Searchlight flies us down there, and we get off the plane, and we're walking through the West Palm Beach. I think it was West Palm Beach Airport, and people are like constantly coming up to Bill, being like, "Hey, man, I love you in Twister." And he goes, "Oh, man, thanks a lot." And he would hand him a 20. And I'm like, "What?" And it was like, we must have passed, I don't know, 10 people on the way. And he had a roll of fucking 20s. And he handed, every person came and gave him 20. He goes, always carry a roll of 20s. Those people are going to go to your movie when next one come out. Going to turn into a hit. And I'm like, wow.
That's so true.
We got Ike Barinholtz and Dave Stassen in the Mustache Tales podcast. Nice to see you guys. You're coming off your big win on History of the World Part 2.
Thank you guys for having us, by the way.
Talk about doing stuff for charity. Ike just won Celebrity Jeopardy, Jay. Like the whole gamut.
The whole thing, baby.
The whole thing. How much did you raise for Hollygrove?
We raised $1 million for Hollygrove. Hayes reached out because he's like, I was talking to him, and I was like, yeah, the Jeopardy's airing next week. I won. He's like, "You did?" And I was like, yeah. He goes, "Oh, I thought you won the first two, and you never mentioned it, so I assumed you fucking lost." And I didn't. I won. I beat our friend Patton Oswalt and Will Wheaton. Wow. Yeah, there's a trophy right there.
And you didn't tell anyone. I think I was the first person you told before
You
it aired.
were the first person I told. I kept my mouth shut for once. I didn't even tell fucking Dave.
You didn't tell Dave.
I didn't tell Dave. I told like my immediate family, and I had talked to you like the week before it came out. That was it.
You don't want to antagonize your audience there, Ike. You want people thinking you're like just a regular dumb shit, just like the rest of us.
Exactly. People think I'm a dumbass, and now they know I'm like a dumbass that knows a little bit of trivia.
I mean, I had no idea you were that smart. I'm a little taken aback right now.
Wasn't he
not though? Like these guys
wasn't
know.
Wasn't he on the nerd? What was that team in high school where
it's not called? It's called the fucking Scholastic Bowl, man. And I got to tell you something. Dave and I were on the Scholastic Bowl team. I'm going to tell you something about that group of nerds, as you just referred to them. Is that bunch of losers? Is that collection of fucking virgins? Let me tell you something about that squad, pal. We are the only team from Latin to win the Illinois State Championship in one of the sports. And yes, it's a fucking sport.
What was it? Was it a trivia team?
Yeah,
it's Scholastic Bowl. It's basically trivia. It's more academic based. When you say, Dave?
Oh yeah, like there were some like math and science questions that we were not, and we were not the students for.
And Dave and I were also like there was 2 or 3 guys on this team who were like savants, who like just like like Ben Horowitz, smartest guy like ever, and he could just
He
like,
was the smartest
Yeah.
kid
Jeff Wolf.
I've
Jeff
ever
Wolf-
gone to school with.
Jeff Wolf can name, like, if you name a war, any war in history, he'll tell you every battle in that war. So then
Well,
Dave and I were cleaning up.
Yeah, but Ike was an interesting high school student because he was very smart. But if we were taking like American history, Ike would go home that night and like read about the Napoleonic Wars, and then when it was like the European history study we were studying, he would like read about the American Civil War. He just was on his own schedule and like listening or not with what the teachers were asking him to do.
Yeah, Jay, a rebel, but like an equally nerdy rebel. It wasn't like, I'm not reading what you're doing. I'm going to go fix a motorcycle. I was like, I'm going to read other shit.
Like a nerdy contrarian.
Yeah.
Just a nerdy little bitch, really.
Forget calculus. I'm going to go do pre-cal. It's just like a little derivation of what you're doing.
You guys went to high school together, huh?
Yeah. And Hayes and I grew up together, and Hayes left our school. But yeah, I've known Hayes my whole life. And then Ike, we went to summer camp with Ike in third grade. So we've all known each other a very long time.
What camp?
So
Rams Club, Gordon Tech High sports camp.
Okay. You know,
It was the camp where every morning at 8:30 a.m. they put you in a gymnasium, and they take every boy like over 5'6" and every kid under 5'6" and put them on separate sides of the gym and have you play dodgeball. You just get your shit fucking rocked at like first thing in the morning.
I want to tell the story of how I met Dave, but actually, Ike, that's where I met you on that camp bus.
On the bus.
So as I remember this, Jay, I was on this camp bus, third grade, summer, hot Chicago day, school bus. I'm in front. Those windows that you had to push both tabs down at the same time to lower, and they'd always like either slam or be way up. And I had gotten picked up. And we're going around the city picking up various kids. And I got on the bus, and the back of the bus was already full. I'm sitting in the front of the bus. And we pull up on a street corner, and we see these two, at the time, they were just like gorgeous, voluptuous girls standing on the street corner, just kind of hanging out. And the bus stopped. And I'm, it's like they're outside. I'm third grade. You see them, but you don't think that you could ever interact with a girl that's older than you. And all of a sudden, one of those windows slides down from the back, and I hear, "Hey, mama, look at me. Hey, mama." And this guy's hanging out of the back of the bus, and this girl blows a kiss. But before she blows her kiss, she rubs it on her butt and blows the kiss, and then flicks off this kid in the back of the bus. And I turn around, and I see that it was Ike that was heckling her from the back.
Anton Zamerski. He was a Polish gang member who was murdered, and I was sitting next to him.
That's when I got up and went to the back and said, "I'll sit with this kid."
Hayes literally, it was like the most like Forrest Gump ass thing. He like literally walked over and was like, "I like what you're up to. Can I join you?"
I like what you're up to. Well,
Hayes, we got to step that story up though. We got to be like, and then the bus pulled over and we got out and fucked up with those girls.
No, and then the bus driver said, "I can't drop below 50." But Dave was the kid where I would go to, I guess they were like hangouts, play dates at his house because we were much younger. And he's, as he is today, he's the nicest man that you can meet. Like so genial, so many great manners, just very chill. Except, and to your credit, Dave, you've done so much work on this. He had a temper that it was shocking and it was scary when you were at his place. But it wasn't over other people; it was over things like video games or Bulls basketball.
He still does. He screamed at me right before the Zoom. He called me a fat little fucker, stupid fuck.
So we would go to Dave's house and we'd be playing like Sega Genesis. Remember that game system?
Sure.
Bump and Jump and Zelda. And Dave, when something would happen in the game, would stand up and he would take the controller and he would whip it against the wall, and the controller would just explode. And it was like the first time I ever saw someone break, because those things were like gold. Like to have
$70.
one was $70. And he would take his controller and he'd smash it, and then on cue, 2 minutes later, his mom would come in and go, "Oh, Dave, not again." And she'd open up a drawer and she had like 20 other controllers. And she'd plug it in.
That makes it sound like you're like Richie Rich.
Yeah. We would get to our home walk-in vault, and I'd pull out a new game system. But yeah, I put some Nintendo controllers through drywall. I didn't like to lose. I was a nasty little kid.
And that run up before the Bulls won their first championship, when they were just losing to the Pistons. Those were some classic tantrums.
The Pistons.
What you would yell? You would yell so loud that you would see stars and then pass out.
Well, yeah, one time the Bulls lost in double overtime on Mother's Day in Boston, and I screamed so loud that I fell backwards and fainted. I was like 10 years old. And I was like seeing stars.
Poor mom. It's Mother's Day. She just wants to like get like fucking a nice piece of salmon with her family. Her little shitty son's like, ah!
Oh, fucking DJ fucking hacked MJ. Got away with it.
Dennis Johnson, microwave?
No, he wasn't the microwave. That was Vinnie Johnson.
That was Vinnie Johnson.
Vinnie
Celtics.
Johnson.
Yeah.
You guys know I'm from Hinsdale, right?
Oh yeah, baby.
Ike, I was looking at that thing you did on ESPN that
The top 10.
and I thought there were some good choices in there. But I guess, I kind of wanted, this is, of course, I'm critiquing your ESPN thing. It was, by the way, incredible to be on there.
Thank
Incredible.
you.
Here it comes.
Here it goes.
But, I felt like do you remember when Jim McMahon got the shot on the sidelines? He got like a pain, like he was injured, and they gave him a pain shot on Monday Night Football, and he went
in 85.
Yeah, in '85, and then he had just come out of the hospital, and he then
sounds
beat
familiar.
the Vikings for it was the greatest comeback in Chicago Bears history, by the way. I like that one, and then I like the flu game with Michael Jordan. You picked another Utah game, which was the crossover, which is phenomenal.
I thought about flu game. I also just so you guys I'm clear, I submitted the Chicago players to be the top 3, and either because they were like no, or they got them confused, they ended up being 10, 9, and 8.
Oh, right.
But I wasn't like, do I think Dwight Clark catching a pass is better than fucking the Cubs winning the World Series? Obviously.
I zoned out on numbers, 1 through 7.
There's a couple in there that, but I thought about the flu game, and then there was another Chicago thing I thought about. I can't remember. Dave, do you remember we were talking about it? Fuck, I can't remember.
It had the Patrick Kane goal.
Oh yeah, Patrick Kane punching a cab driver. Which one we were going to do, but we didn't have good tape of it.
I like when Duncan Keith took a puck to the mouth and lost. He lost like 6 teeth, and then he went back in the game, and then they won. I think the series. They interviewed him after that, and he goes, my teeth weren't that great to start with, so I guess I'll get some new ones. And I was like, yeah, man, that's Chicago right there.
That was against the Sharks. Yeah,
beautiful.
Incredible.
I also thought about putting Loyola in there when they got to the Final Four. Was it?
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Sister Jean, was that her name?
Sister Jean.
Sister Jean, yeah.
But ESPN was also like, no, you have to put in some ones.
Anti-Catholic.
Yeah,
I think it would have been like funnier if you did all Chicago.
I pitched that. I wanted to do. One of my favorite Chicago moments was. Do you guys remember there was a big rain out during a White Sox game, and Mark Burley just ran onto the field and did like a big slip and slide. He just slid. I just thought that was so fun and cool. I wanted to put that in there, but they were like, no, it's fucking Suits.
I also have this question on history of the world. How intimidated were you guys sitting down with Mel Brooks for the first time?
Incredibly,
very.
But he makes he immediately like cracked a joke about only doing the show for the healthcare. Okay, he's 95 years old, but you're still with Mel Brooks. Like he's still just the same guy. And like anytime you would pitch him an idea, he immediately would think of a joke for it.
The first time I met him, I was just excited. But the second time we talked to him, where we had to kind of like pitch him what we thought the show should be, like what are the big things, that I was nervous about, because if he was like, no, we're not there yet, I would have been like really crushed. But he was just very sweet. He's like, oh, this sounds great.
You came to him with, we want to do the Civil War, we want to do the Russian Revolution, we want to do the Italian Renaissance. Like these were all, and he would.
Yeah, and there were some that it was just like, it's just like with any person who's like old and famous, you don't want to waste their time. So like certain things, like you're not like, you know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna like explain to him like what Cameo is, you know what I mean? Like, but it's like the big things and like big sketches and like people, you know what I mean? He was very like, he was very excited when we're like, we have a funny sketch where Josh Gad will play Shakespeare. And he has jokes Josh, I gotta say, Josh Gad fucking killed it.
Yeah, he did really well.
He has jokes though that he's been sitting on Mel for 40 years, like when we're doing the Civil War.
Yeah.
And he's like, at Appomattox, Robert E. Lee, when he signs the treaty, he turns and his saber will hit all of his officers in the balls. And you're like, there you go.
That's in the show.
Hayes and I were in a sequel to Super Troopers, and it was 16 years apart, right? So it was very important to me that I said everybody's got to weigh the same so that they don't. The first thing people don't say is, "Oh man, they look old and fat." They can say we look old, but we don't look fat, right? We look the same.
You guys look fantastic.
I mean, everybody weigh the same, and then I'm like, we got to make it. We shot the first one on film, and this one's on digital, but it's got to look as close to the first one as possible. And I think that you guys had 40 years between it. Is that something like that? Is that right?
Yeah, 42.
I feel like the image, like the quality of the image is close, very similar in its just feel.
Dude, coming from you, that is so great to hear, because that was like one of our big goals, right? You're talking, how do you ape something and try to make it look like something that was shot in 1981 on film with a big budget in 1981? And, just how do you try to make it still feel like it has like that high production value while also not having a ton of money? And Dave can speak to it a lot too, because he directed some of it, but that was like the big challenge. And thank you for saying that. That is very, very nice. Hayes, do you agree?
Well, I remember that when I came down to that set, I hadn't seen you guys in a couple months, and I came down to shoot the Jesus Christianity trailer as if the movie Christianity was directed by Michael Bay.
Oh my God!
It's one of the later sketches.
It's in the finale.
Show.
Hayes is so fucking funny, and he goes, "You know who else is John the Baptist?"
Yeah. Yeah, you did an impression of yourself in that as that character.
But I didn't know the size and scale of what you guys had been up to. I kind of heard that you were going to make History of the World Part 2, and that Kroll had came to you, and you guys had put together this team with Wanda Sykes, but I didn't really see how it was all happening. And when I showed up and I saw a full biblical village replicated, and the western town that was all done, and Dave walking around in his son.
Oh my God.
Gardening.
Giant hats. Jay, Dave and I wear these gigantic hats on set. It's so irritating. Like if you're standing behind us, you can't see shit.
Ralph's, $12 at Ralph's, guys.
What, were you outside?
One of those ranches, yeah.
Yeah, we were down in Santa Clarita for like three weeks. Big hats, sunny. Can't do it.
Well, yeah, to your point, we had to and this is, praise to Hulu. They all along, they're like, this is Mel Brooks. Like it's gotta feel big. So we needed, because the movie has big production values, has big sets, and it can't just be everything is a sketch, on a soundstage with 3 walls. So we tried to honor the movie by doing some of our bigger stories, making it feel like, the Roman Empire or the French Revolution, those big parts of history, part 1 we remember.
in our Civil War story, we got this great actor, Zahn McClarnon. He's on Reservation Dogs. He was in Fargo, the show.
Yeah.
He's just a great Native American actor. And we were at the ranch one day out there, and I was like, "You ever been here?" He goes, "Not since Dr. Quinn."
He has one of the great lines in this sketch where he's doing stand-up comedy to all the Southern Confederates trying to save his life, and they start making fun of him, and then he starts ripping back at them for Native American culture, and he gets really angry about stuff, and he says, "I think I just found my comic voice."
Did I just find my voice?
Did I just find my voice?
He was so funny. He's like a real actor, We're trying to get him to do stand-up, and I love watching real actors who they're like, "Hey man, just so you know, I don't do comedy. I don't do jokes and stuff. I don't know how to do that. I'm down to do whatever you want, but I'm not good at that." And once they get one laugh, they're like, "Should I do another take? What if my pants fell down?" They're just they're getting laughs. They love it. They love it.
But Dave, weren't we talking about as it goes on? I was like, it feels like Mr. Show, the great sketch show that we all watched, where the sketches start intertwining with each other as the history of the world goes on. You start seeing recurring bits from the first couple episodes come back.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because Ike and I were huge Mr. Show fans. We watched every episode over and over, especially when we first moved out to LA 20 plus years ago. But when we were making this, we really just thought about doing the Mel Brooks, honoring Mel and paying tribute to him. But I think maybe in the DNA of the show, there is some Mr. Show kind of crossover just because of how influential that sketch show was for us.
Yeah, so much stuff in post because it's just you have a bunch of sketches. And then a big part of it was assembling them and trying to figure out you know what I mean? We entertained so many different possibilities of what episodes could look like, and then along the way found little ways to kind of connect them and intertwine them and stuff. So,
but the irreverence of Owen walking through as the Red Sox fan, just saying "fuck the Yankees,"
fuck Jeter, and Babe Ruth, they're all fake, they're phony.
Yeah. And you must have screened it for crowds?
No, not really. We had a lot of editors and a lot of producers, and so we were very hands-on. But we were just it was one of those things, Jay. I'm sure you've maybe been in this position where you're you shot something, and you kind of know it is what it is, and you're it's great to show it to friends and get some feedback. Sometimes that can be really good if you have if it's something where it's oh, we don't know what this is, but we knew what this was, right? Yeah. And so sometimes you're we're not going to show it to people because you just don't want people to be "Oh, it'd be great if you did this." And we're "Yeah, we can't do that."
That's not going to happen.
You know that people still come up to me about the film Club Dread, and they're like, "It'd be cool if your character didn't die, and you know what you should do? You should have him be the killer." And I'm like, "He's fucking 50 years old. You out of your mind?"
So good.
They're like, "Well, I'm just saying it would be good if whatever." That and so many other people are like, You should put me as the captain in the next Super Troopers movie. Just some fucking stranger.
Yeah, better than Brian Cox. I'll do better than Brian Cox for sure.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's a good idea.
But you guys wrote that. You got young kids at home. It was during when we were all inside, right? During COVID and quarantine. That's when the writers' room started for History of the World. It feels almost
it was right. Yeah, we were with the writers' room was on Zoom, which fucking sucks balls. I think I don't like it on Zoom. I like being home. But it is, you get, I think, better material if you're in an office.
I think, in fact, we shot Super Troopers 2 on location rather than in California, in part because I think that the great comedies benefit so much from smoking weed at night, right? And
oh my God,
the jokes that come from the bars and the things, and they work their way into the movies, and it's it to me is it's why it's hard to make a movie in California when you have to go home and kind of pick your kids up and have your wife yell at you. all that stuff.
That is true. Hey, you know what I was just thinking about Super Troopers 2? I don't know if you probably couldn't do it because what would you do it on? But there's no like commentary, is there? Because the first Super Troopers, the commentary is like on the DVD was like one of my favorite commentaries. You guys were so fucking funny. You're just like you make a movie with your friends and then just like make fun of like your friend's body. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And I remember at one point Brian Cox comes in and like I think it was like Lemmy maybe is like imitating Brian Cox being like coming into the room being like, listen, turkeys. I just remember being like so stoned and being like, ah! I wish you guys could do a commentary for the second one.
We could. And when we did that commentary, it was before the term body shame had been invented. But since then, Kevin and I have a little routine, which is I'll make fun of him for being fat. He'll go, don't body shame me. And I'll be like, you have such a shameful body.
Oh, you guys should do a live commentary on the pod.
I think we should. I think we could.
That would be very fun to do. That would be something I would do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the trailer today. I don't know if it came out today for Quasi, which
it came out today.
Came out today. It looks very funny. How did you guys?
Fucking funny.
How did you guys write that in person?
A couple of us were history majors, and Steve Lemmy, who plays the hunchback in this movie Quasi, he used to work at a place called HMV, which is like a record store in New York City, and he knew a guy there who was like a real loner, and he sort of talked out of the side of his mouth, and he was like, another sweaty weekend alone in New York City. There'll be no love for this guy this weekend. And he was such a loner and a loser. I mean, in his own mind, right? And Lemmy would do this voice, and we started writing this thing, this like Hunchback of Notre Dame, and then we added a King of France, and then the Pope, and we wrote it 15 years ago. And so when we made Super Troopers 2, we had a good experience with Searchlight, and they were like, what else you got? We're like, yeah, this fucking thing. And they read it. They're like, okay, let's do it. I'm like, what? And so we rewrote it like 8 or 9 times. And then we shot it during the COVID.
Where'd you shoot?
Santa Clarita and a little bit in Ireland. Got some castles up there.
Cool.
And it's for Hulu. It's coming out on 4/20. I mean,
exact same as History of the World. Searchlight for Hulu. Look at
this.
That's
right.
We're familia.
Yeah, Searchlight loves a good dress up comedy, a little period kind of thing. So that's their
those guys.
bread and butter.
There's some real Mel Brooks vibe in the trailer, I felt.
It's so funny. People in a historical environment, but just being like totally contemporary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was really like at times, because the rich people in the movie have British accents and the poor ones have American accents. And there were moments where you're like, I mean, on the one level, we're ripping Python off straight away. And on the other level, you're like, it felt like a lost Python scene at times. You're like, where's this? What movie is this from? And we'll get shit for it for sure. But you know what? This is our 8th movie or something. So we're like, we don't really give a...
Who cares? Yeah. Who cares?
But it's good. The movie is we play multiple parts, and we always wanted to be Monty Python. Like we always, hoped to be Monty Python. In fact, the name Broken Lizard is just a name that I thought people would be like, Broken Lizard, that sort of sounds like Monty Python. That's the only fucking reason. Right, that's it.
Who was your guys' favorite Python?
John Cleese.
Me too.
And I don't know if it's because he was sort of the skinny, tall one. You know how everybody just likes the character that sort of looks like them? Obviously, none of them are Indian. But I really did. I do like him. I like him. I love him all.
I love them all too. I got to meet Michael Palin a couple years ago, which was very exciting because he was a big one for me.
That's cool that you're meeting all these sort of heroes, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, him. I literally was doing like a radio hit in Philly, and he was in the other green room, and I came in. I was like, "I've always loved your shit, sir." But to your point, working with Mel, it was really like something I never in a million years thought
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
you
nobody
guys
did.
share this super rare DNA in anything that you do, but Jay with the Broken Lizard guys having been together in college and all that history, and Ike and Dave were writing. Didn't you? You guys were writing a sports column in high school together.
We did, and I'd like to read it right now, if you don't mind. It's 6 pages.
Wildly different, divergent paths to come together and be screenwriters in Los Angeles with stops in Amsterdam. And so, Jay, when we all went to college at the same time, we got very worried about Ike for a couple years because he was asked to take some time away from BU and he decided not to go back. And we were all at the time going like, oh my God, is he going to be okay? What's he doing? He's like, oh, he's doing
I'll tell you what he's
Chicago
doing, fucking
improv.
killing it on the improv stage. Fucking hooking up, getting drunk, smoking
No,
cigarettes.
you were working. What was the CTA story when you
Well, I
figured
was
out you
working,
were
I had a
working?
day job. I worked for the CTA, which was a
Wow.
fucking nightmare. Oh my God, it was a nightmare. So bad. It was great. It was amazing, like character study. And
But it was right when colored printers had first come out.
No. Here's what it is. So it was right when literally my coworker taught me the internet. Like it was right when people were getting like email addresses, like normal people, not like weirdos. And he showed me the internet one day, like a browser. And I did not work for like 2 weeks once he showed me that. I was like, oh my God, it's just fucking, there's so much information out here. And then sure enough, you start to realize, oh my God, there's so much fucking porn. There's so much nudity. And I can't remember he showed to me or what, but there was someone had downloaded or uploaded pictures of, do you remember Madonna made a book called Sex?
I do. I've read it.
You read it. It was just a bunch of tawdry photos of her.
Yeah, I loved it.
I found them. I found them online. I was like, oh my fucking God, this is like 1996. I was like, oh, this is so great. I'm gonna print these out, bring them home, and problem solved. And so I hit print, and oh, that's a nice one. Print. Oh man, you could almost see her nipple there. Print. And then, I remember the printer wasn't working. It just I looked at it and nothing was coming out of it. Like I turned it on, I turned it off, still nothing. And I was like, man, fuck this. And it was like Friday afternoon, and I went home. And Monday morning, my boss came up to my little cube, and he dropped like 12 photos of Madonna, like fucking whatever, like Vanilla Ice, like eating her butt. And he put down, he looks at me and goes, you're not allowed to use the internet ever. You can never use the internet ever again. And he walked away. But he left me the photos, which I thought was nice.
Didn't in your office, you started off you had a cubicle with 3 walls and they took a wall away and then they took another wall away.
By the time I left there, I was in the middle of the office, like just a desk in the middle of an open office because I was falling asleep. I was reading magazines or newspapers.
Yeah, for people that don't know, the CTA is the Chicago Transit Authority. So it's the public transportation system in Chicago. And it's when people rail against where tax dollars go, it's because
guys trying to print out nudies of Madonna.
And you were sleeping under the desk, right? Doing improv shows, hanging out.
I was going in closets and taking naps for hours. It was it was a nightmare. But so I had this horrible existence. But then at night, Jay, I was an improv star. Mostly improv Olympic, but I did the annoyance, and I performed at Second City.
And then you go into work. I haven't heard this one in years. I don't know if I have the setup right, but you're at work. You're super tired. You find a place to take a nap.
Yes.
And there was
I went into a supply closet because I kept falling asleep on my desk, and I went in there and I was like, I'm gonna take a 10-minute nap, and I was in there for hours. And my boss found me. He started shaking me. He goes, what are you doing? The worst part about it, he was a great guy. I specifically remembered I was drooling, and I looked at him, I go, how long have I been in here? He goes, I don't know. And it was an hour. It was like 12:15. I went in there at 8:30.
I had a friend who he was at Warner Brothers, and he was in PR or something. And he just felt like that the bosses didn't really want him around. And they kind of were like, they were trying to find a way to get rid of him. And one day they're like, can you come into the conference room, please? and they had laid out his entire internet search history on one of those huge conference tables. And he's like, I saw a search for tiny tits with big butts. And I look at my boss and he goes, get out. And he goes, the whole thing was like chocolate love. And it's facials, the whole table was all porn. And he goes,
So it's just funny that with the specifics of it, you know what I mean? Just when you find out what someone's specifics are.
Oh, right when those search engines came out, my friend, I had a buddy and his girlfriend just moved in with him, and they were looking for new cars. They wanted to get a car together, and she went into the search engine and she typed in car, and she screamed, and she went and got him, and it had auto-filled. When she typed in car, the browser filled in Carmen Electra's ass. so she goes, why would you Google this? It's so specific.
It's very specific, but very, I don't know, sweet.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, car mechanic fucks up, fucking stepdaughter in front of friends or something horrific. That's so like sweet. Your friend looking around, Carmen Electric.
Yeah, right.
Real quick, hey, when did porn become exclusively a fetish for
stepdaughters and
for
family members?
Like
it's crazy.
I gotta say, like, I'm pretty like a lefty guy, and I think everything's usually pretty fine. But like, we are fucking Sodom and Gomorrah. Everything now in porn is like stepbrother that fucks his stepsister, and mom watches. It's like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this?
I don't know, but at least the word step is being used. At least. And I guess that gives us somewhere to go, but I just it doesn't fill me with blood. I can tell you that. This is not my
puritanical roots. Just we're still there.
Not my game.
Yeah.
We still have like a code in this country where we're like, God damn it, my father did not fucking die in Hanoi. He died in Hanoi so we can have step. There is still some integrity in this country. Oh my God.
That's one last. When we would see Playboys, Playboy was always very risque. And then if you ever got a hold of a hustler,
oh my God,
it was so much that the whole hook to that magazine was people were peeing on each other.
My friend's dad, growing up when I was like 8, I would go to his house and his parents were together and his dad had Playboy in the bathroom. And I remember being like, "Oh, it's pretty great." And then his parents split up, and when I would go to his dad's house, his dad had Hustler and Penthouse, and I was like, "Oh, no, thank you. That is like
it's
too much, a little too much urine for this young boy."
No.
Dave, we were walking to Menominee Club after grade school one day, and we found like one of those dirty magazines in the park. And this is my first memory of pornography. We went through the pages and we ripped up the pages, and everyone took pages home with them. And then the next day we'd bring the pages back and swap them with each other.
Oh my God. This is like Little House on the Prairie, it sounds like. It's the things that we had to do.
Right.
Well, now I'm looking at the kids on my couch, and I'm like always conscious of what they're Googling or what the pop-ups are, or if they type in the wrong stuff, or where my parental controls are. It's a different thing.
What's the story with Maximum Truth?
Oh, baby.
Maximum Truth is a movie that Ike and I wrote that he stars in with Dylan O'Brien. I directed it. It's coming out June 23rd in theaters and on demand. And
it's a day and date, Jay. We got a typical day and date release.
Day and date.
Nice.
And basically, Ike plays a low-level political operator who will protest anything for money and attention.
Basically, we are obsessed with like the dregs of society, and we think like we just live in this age where there's just people will do anything to get money, and like low-level grifters are just very funny to us. And we had this idea, and we got like a crazy cast put together. Hayes' brother Scotty's in it playing.
Scott, yeah.
You're not going to believe this. A fucking creep. And it is very funny, highly stupid and offensive, but we're very excited for that one.
It's kind of it sounds like a spin on this sort of, I guess I call it evil show business, right? Like Fox News and just anybody who will say anything. I know a guy who's on the air at Fox News who has a big show, and he was in charge of talent relations for Stuff magazine at Sundance for Super Troopers. And so he was basically, his job was to hang out with me and Lemmy and basically to get us drugs and women if possible. Like he was just this hedonist, this animal. And we had a fun time. And
of course, you're talking about Pat Buchanan.
well, right. And so
does anyone have any ecstasy for the Super Trooper boys?
No, I mean, he literally, like, I hung out with him for another month or so after, you know, I was in New York. He invited me like a swinger party, and I'm like, I mean, I wasn't available, but you know, anyway. So whatever. The guy's a lunatic, right? He's just a wild kind of. And Stuff magazine was the bikini magazine, and then. Like 6, 7, 8, I don't know. I'm promoting some film I did with Olivia Munn called Baby Makers. And he's like, why don't you come on my Fox show? And I'm like, I got to warn you, pal. I mean, if you ask me shit about politics, I'm just going to tell you what I honestly think. And he goes, no politics. So I meet him outside. Like I'm coming up to the Fox building and he runs out and it's sort of drizzling. And he goes, no politics, no problem at all. And I'm like, as a boy, here you are, sitting on Fox News. And he goes, oh, come on, man. You know, it's all bullshit. He goes, you know me, I'm just a hedonist. But he goes, the crazier shit I say, the more Rupert pays me. He goes, don't worry about it. Just it's all show business. And I'm like,
it's all
what?
It's all kayfabe. It is all kayfabe. I do want to give a shout out to Rupert, though, who just got married again at 92. What a hot night of marital lovemaking must await that woman.
Poor lady.
Poor woman. He's like, I can't carry you over the threshold, but I took a Cialis about 3 hours ago.
He's
almost working.
He's 92.
He's 92.
Wow.
He's 92.
Did that guy grill you on the air, Jay? You go on the show and he
didn't say
questions.
Nobody said a word about politics. We were just like talking about this movie, and I was like, people were taking photos of me on the set. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. We don't need to.
It's amazing how well people get along until they become pundits, and then they start fighting.
Well, it also shows you too that like back then, Fox News was still like, yeah, we're not just all crazy Republicans, and now like. If you were on there talking about a movie, like they would have like 1,000 phone calls, like "Get this baby eater off my fucking TV."
Hayes, did you send them the info about this vouch thing?
Yes. The vouch.
Yeah. We just we have these things that we're like when you're into something, we vouch for them, and then there's what is it? It's an app, right?
So the idea is. Instead of reading, like you read a New York Times review, right? And it's like from a stranger. You don't know if they smoke weed. You don't know if they drink beer. You don't even know if they like R-rated movies, right? It's like why are we, like when's the last time you walked up to a stranger on the street and said, hey, what movie should I see? Right? It's just not how, you talk to your friends. So the app is basically the Instagram of recommendations. And so, you get on there and you're like, I like The Last Dance. Like if you follow me, you're like, okay, I know him and he likes The Last Dance. And I like this restaurant Kazunori in Studio City, these sushi wraps. Or I like this song, by Chris Christopherson, The Taker, and it's just so every new television show you see, like History of the World Part 2, boom. And then people go, oh yeah. And then there's a link to it. It's just a way to take away all of the bullshit and just focus on your friends and famous people.
I think everyone who comments on anything online needs to have like literally what are their favorite things. Like you need to know their taste, right? I think this is a brilliant idea, and I'd like to go all in on it financially.
Wait, what's it? I didn't hear. What was it called?
Vouch Vault.
Oh, Vouch Vault. Okay.
And,
a very good
and
idea.
for example, if I recommend this Chris Christopherson song, The Taker, or whatever, and you're like, oh, I haven't heard it, you just click a little ribbon and it goes into like a little try vault area. So later, instead of having a little notes app where you have all the things you're supposed to see, it's everything, every movie, every television show, every book, every restaurant, whatever. It's all right there. It's all right there.
This is easy. Ready? Favorite restaurant, Burger King. Favorite movie, Ernest Goes to Camp. Favorite TV show, G.I. Joe cartoon. Favorite song, Monster Mash. What else?
That's a classic. That's a classic.
My vouch is actually came when I first got down to Atlanta. I got a list of restaurants from Ike of where to go, and today I went to Fox Brothers Barbecue, that Texas barbecue place down here. That was some of the best food I've had in that genre specifically. It was delicious, dude.
And you just gave it away to some guy at a bus station.
And I tried to give
And now
it
here
away.
you are, $25 poorer.
I bought 6 meals.
How about a little money too?
I will vouch. Okay, here's my vouch. I'm going to vouch for something that's old. Okay,
That's good.
I started rewatching Deadwood. I remember when Deadwood came out, and I really liked it a lot. But it was also, there's a lot of great TV at that time, and also my wife didn't love it, so it was one of those things where I was like, I'll watch it when you're not around, which you never get to do really. So now I'm rewatching it, and it is so good. It's very funny. It's so funny. Like, some of the acting is just, some of the performances are hilarious. It's also really nice to go back and watch one of those like mid-2000s HBO shows where they literally were like, here's $100 million. Where like there's just, they like built their own town, and like some of the extras are just like, I think, actual like people from the frontier. It's just a wonderful rewatch, and I absolutely vouch for.
Didn't that show like it was a little bit contemporary, right? Like it wasn't like it wasn't like John Ford Westerns, which we were used to. It kind of made it more gritty, and it was the same environment. They swore a lot.
It shows you the reality of like what life was like in the Old West, which was like, man, I just stubbed my toe. Probably gonna die later. Like, it was just like a nightmarish existence. Where
every
like
third episode was about syphilis.
Oh my god! Both of the two. There's two different characters in the show that owns brothels, and it. I don't know. It's fantastic. I love it. Powers Booth is amazing. It's a wonderful show.
You know, those brothels in the West, I was reading this book about how the national parks started, and it was Teddy Roosevelt who started it. And the biggest problem when they wanted to do the national parks, because the Wild West was literally that, no borders, nothing. People were just everywhere, and the only commerce in town was brothels, because people would be out hunting or trapping or getting furs, and they had brothels. So Teddy Roosevelt, and it was the guy who did John Muir, came up with this plan, and they mapped the West. And the hardest thing to do was to get these towns off of public lands, because they were like, what's public lands, dude?
That's why Teddy Roosevelt started that big campaign, go fuck a buffalo. He tried to get American settlers to fuck a buffalo and not have to shut down the towns so the prostitutes would go. That's historically true. I'm just saying.
I'm going to vouch for another brothel Western, which is The Unforgiven, which is, to me, the greatest Western of all time. I mean, and you got some great brothel scenes too.
Perfect. It is the best Western of all time. It is.
Isn't the inciting incident of that movie that a prostitute gets cut in the face?
Yeah, she makes fun of a guy's dick, which isn't cool, by the way.
It's not cool.
No, he like cuts her, and then that's why they want to go hire William Money to kill him dead.
All right, two quick vouches. I thought of one before the pod and one just now. The first vouch is soft serve ice cream is back. It is a lot of restaurants now. It's like the dessert they offer, and I'm a big fan. I think it's a great way to end a meal, soft serve ice cream. The second vouch, I just started this pilot last night. The Mayor of Kingstown on Paramount Plus. It came out. I really love the pilot. It's a very cool world. It's about prisoners and guards and the scumbags who sort of deal with both of them. and this whole like under this whole dark underworld.
I love that. I used to actually be a Good Humor ice cream man in Naperville. That was my job when I was 20, and I basically you get a truck, you buy all the ice cream, and then you go and you sell it around town. And I would go to all the car dealerships, and all the guys would come out, and they'd be like, I'll have a 6-pack of Budweiser and an 1/8 of weed. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't have any of that. They're like, what do you have? I'm like, ice cream.
Toasted almond bars?
Like, get the fuck out of here. And so I was like, geez, what's going on? And so I went back to the place, and this guy goes, hey man, can I get a 12-pack? Because I don't want to go to the store. And I'm like, I don't have any beer. He goes, how do you make money? And I'm like, I sell ice cream. And he goes, get the fuck out of here, you fucking dingbat. I mean, it was fun job. But there was a guy. I would do this baseball game every day, and I'd roll in like Little League. And after the game, I mean, it was a mob scene. Everyone's coming to me, right? And I did that every single in the summer. And then one day I roll up there, and there's a fucking Penguin truck sitting there, like, and this guy's got one thing. He's got like vanilla ice cream with a chocolate case around it, right? And I'm like, and I go over, I'm like, get the fuck out of here, bro. And he goes, no, free country. I got here first. And I'm like, all right. So I took basically I had a equal Penguin bar. I'm like, free. They're free. Just anybody wants one of those, they're for free. I'm giving them away. And the guy's like, and then he just starts up and drives off.
I got beer. Free beer.
I got weed. I got Coke.
Guy's still in prison, sadly. I'll tell you one thing I vouched for. This freaking conversation.
Nice. I also want to vouch for History of the World Part 2.
Hey, now, that is a perfectly placed plug at the end. That is just, you went.
Hayes, where's your mustache?
I was at Fox Brothers today. I took a bite of this big barbecue sandwich, and it got all over my face, and it was hot, and I had to come home and shave it because it was burning my lip.
Aren't you in continuity?
Where?
Aren't you shooting a movie? You can't come home and shave your fucking mustache because you had too much barbecue sauce on it. They're going to show up tomorrow. The Fairleys are going to be like, what the fuck?
They're good. They're so successful. It doesn't matter.
They are nice. Like, yeah, you know what? It's okay. It's fine.
We'll work around.
I love that.
You know, it's funny because Brian Cox, it was when we were shooting Super Troopers 2, we shot him without, he had no facial hair. And then he had to go to shoot, I think he had to shoot something for Succession. And he needed facial hair. And he goes, I got a facial hair when I come back because I got to go back to Succession. And I'm like, all right, we'll just try to light around it. And there's scenes where he's got
we don't want to destroy the reality of this.
Oh, fuck. You should have been like, you should have started the scene. He comes in with a mask. He's like, I have COVID. Don't ask me any questions about it. Boys, this was a pleasure.
That was fun. So fun.
Guys, great to see you. Thanks for doing this. Jay, where's your mustache?
You know, my wife snuck up on me while I was taking a nap yesterday and just zipped it off. Just, she said, no more mustaches.
Oh, man.
Love you guys. I'll talk with you soon. Thanks, Dave.
Guys.
Thanks, Ike.
Thanks, guys.
Bye,
Bye,
guys.
boys.
Thank you.
Mustache Tales.